I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders past and present. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Project Life podcast. It's me, your host, Lana Green, and today I am not joined by a special guest. We're going to be talking a little bit more about me. Let you get to know me a little bit better, and hopefully you can take something away from it. Maybe it's something that you resonate with really well. Maybe it's something you want to try. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about my life, and not a story, not something that's happened to me, but more along the lines of how I go about my daily life. I think it started back when I was at school, for a little bit of context, where we spoke about like holistic health and a bit of a balance. You know, we look at the physical health and the mental and the spiritual and the emotional and financial. And so I guess I kind of took that ethos and really ran with it throughout the course of my life thus far. Every day I'm looking at ways to improve myself. I break it up and I look at these different avenues and these different ways that I can improve in all these elements of my life. Now, some of these parts can be my relationships and how I need to connect with certain people more, or I haven't spoken to people, so I'll message them or call them or DM them. It can be with my partner in regards to relationships and thinking we haven't actually spent some quality time together or a date night together, and so forward planning and planning something for the next week or two ahead. Maybe it's quality time as a family, getting outdoors and doing things like that, or seeing family that live far away and making sure that connection's staying there. Sometimes it's looking at my physical health. Maybe it's I'm really not feeling good in my skin. Maybe it's I need to exercise a bit more. My brain's a bit foggy. So doing things that actually help me physically. One of the things that I really enjoy doing is yoga. My body is naturally quite tense and tight. I'm always on the go, and yoga just seems to kind of bring me back, slow me down. Take a minute, breathe. And it also stretches out the muscles and makes me feel really good and calm. Sometimes I look at my financial health and well-being and what I could do better. Reevaluate my budget, do my forecasting, what's important to me at this point in time, and what do I want for my future. And then I kind of sit down and work through that. I may listen to specialists in the field on podcasts or audiobooks, or buy a book and read it. Maybe it's a documentary about something that's in that field that can help me get better. I'm continually striving in the self-development field in all different avenues, whether it's cooking and what I eat. Like I'm thinking, I haven't had enough vegetables and fruit. I need to eat salad, need to have some fruit. I'm not really good at fruit. Vegetable salad, fine. Fruit, not really my thing. Maybe it's about exploring new things in my career where I need to build that gap in my knowledge or my skill set to get to the next level, to progress further. Maybe it's about networking in my career and really expanding my networks. I really look at things holistically, and I'm constantly looking and analyzing different parts and sections of my life and trying to create a balance throughout and trying to improve. Don't know if it's just me, don't know if it's a female thing. If you're really similar, please let me know. I'd love to find like-minded people like myself. But I thought today we'll discuss more about our finances, just due to the current economic climate, cost of living crisis. You know, we're kind of faced with a few things that my family haven't been faced with before. We now have a 14-month-old. We're now about to move into our family home. And it wasn't really until about 2 months prior to my son being born that my partner and I actually pulled our bank account details and our finances together. Until then, mind you, we'd been together like 10 years. It was all separate. We had a savings account, which was joint, which we really used for maybe saving for holidays or spending money for holidays. But other than that, everything was separate. Our mortgages, our utilities, rates, bank accounts, savings, everything. But we were about to enter into a mortgage together and we were about to have a baby. We really sat down and went through our finances. And me being the nerd that I am, I like to take on board a lot of information from experts, and I don't just stick to one. I really have found myself looking at different experts in the field of finance and real estate. I love looking at real estate and looking into real estate constantly on realestate.com or Domain, just looking to see what's out there. And so we sat down and we worked through it. We found that we needed to adjust some things in our life to cater for myself having maternity leave and for building onto our property that was about to settle. So I guess today is just about diving into what our financial setup is and how we're forecasting, budgeting, and managing our finances through this time. Now, full disclosure, if you don't already know, I have no expertise in finance. I am not recommending anything that I mention on today's podcast. It is general entertainment information, letting you know what we are doing. I'd love to hear some tips, tricks, any suggestions, anything that you're implementing in your everyday life at this point in time where cost of living is getting out of control. So first of all, I think maybe we should start with our bank setup and what our bank accounts and setup looks like. Like I mentioned before, we kind of pulled our finances together just before having our son, but we have also recently just gone back over that because we are about to move into our home in about 2 months' time. And we've been quite fortunate that we've been living with family throughout that process. So we haven't had any utilities or any kind of unexpected maintenance costs on the house. So we sat down, we've looked at it, and we're pretty happy with the structure we've got. We just want to be a little bit more stringent on where we're spending our money, a bit more conscious. So it's set up like this. Each of us have a spending account where we can spend it on whatever we want. If I want to get my nails done, that's the money. If I want to go out for coffee with friends, that's the money. If my partner wants to go to the pub and have a few schooners with mates, that's the money. If we want to buy a new dress or shirt or hat or whatever, you get the idea. That's what it's for. We then also have a joint account, which is our daily expenses account. And this is for family costs. So our family car for the petrol for the week, that comes out of that. Our family groceries. If we've got money left over in that account and we want to go out for dinner that week, we use that money. So that's our family expenses. Anything that relates to us as a whole, as a family, or our son, comes out of there. We've also got a savings account with this bank. We do get bonus interest on that when we don't spend any of the money. This is more of an emergency fund. This is because, which we'll go into in a moment about our mortgage, but this allows us instant access to money if we really need it. So we're building this account up to allow for any unexpected costs that come through. Apart from those 4 accounts, everything's with our mortgage. You're probably like, why? What do you mean? Our mortgage is a redraw facility. Unlimited redraw, no fees, BPay, direct debit, everything comes from our mortgage account. You're probably like, why not an offset? I think For me, when we set up our mortgage, I didn't want an offset. I didn't want an account joined to the mortgage at all. I just wanted the mortgage. That's it. And I feel that that's because when I have an offset, I'm looking at it as a separate pool of money as opposed to having it sit on my mortgage. When I have it sitting on my mortgage, I can actually see what it's doing, what the balance is. I can see the redraw increase and increase and increase. Now, over the last few years, like I said, I've gone out to different experts. I've read books, podcasts, emails, the whole lot. That included The Barefoot Investor. That also includes She's on the Money, Victoria Devine, and Infinity Group's Graham Holmes. So last year through maternity leave, I actually joined one of Graham's weekend workshops, I guess you can call them, on debt reduction. And one of the key things that he mentioned was to have a mortgage product that has a redraw facility with no fees, unlimited redraw. The main thing he kept saying, and has really stuck with me, is interest is calculated daily. So every dollar that's in there on that day, you are not paying interest on. What he also recommended was having your salary go direct into your mortgage when you have a redraw facility. So we've changed from doing direct debit to having that salary go direct on our mortgage. And then each week, that little money that goes into each of our accounts, that being my spendings, my partner's spendings, our family, and our family savings, that gets direct debited. That gets direct debited off our mortgage, redraw into those accounts. Some experts in their field recommend doing payments each week for their bills and utilities, which if that works for you, go for it. I have done that previously, but what I said before that Graham said that really stuck with me was interest is calculated daily. So by splitting up your funds, paying weekly your utilities and your bills, that means that money is not sitting in your mortgage and reducing the interest you're paying. So instead, what we have done as part of our financial structure is set up BPAYs. For example, our private health. It comes out every month from our mortgage redraw 2 days before it's due. And that way, by the time the BPAY process is done, it's been paid before the due date. We do that with our rates, with our private health, anything that we can BPAY, we do it that way. Direct debit is a little bit different. I personally don't like direct debit, just having had a lot of past companies and experience where, you've cancelled this and you've done this or you've wanted to pay that and they've then taken money out and I've had to try and crawl that money back. That's really put me at a detriment years ago when I didn't have as much disposable income and wasn't as responsible with my finances as I am now, or like to think I am now. So direct debit, I try to minimize or eliminate as much as possible. However, I do have direct debit that comes out of the redraw facility, and that is our son's childcare. The childcare that is charged fortnightly comes out of our redraw. And that is pretty much it. That's how our structure is. So we've got a mortgage with a redraw facility, BPay facility, direct debit facility, no fees, charges, unlimited. That is our main bank account or cash hub. Then we've got with a different bank our spendings accounts, that being mine, my partner's, and our family's. And then we've also got that emergency fund. So that emergency fund, why is it not in the mortgage redraw? Good question. The reason is when we redraw, there is a delay in how long it actually takes to hit our spendings account. So by having that additional little buffer of emergency fund sitting there, and when I say a little buffer, it can be anywhere from a couple $100 to $10,000 sitting there. Once we get to about a $10,000 mark, then our aim is to invest that. So that's how that's set up there. Now I also have a raise account for myself and for my son. I started this for my son before he was born. You can do that on there. Now, each month I do just a small amount into both his and my own raise accounts. Any money that my son gets for his birthdays or Christmas, he is only little, he doesn't need anything. He gets spoiled. He is so loved. So I ask for money in which I can invest for him and get a bit of a return on. So hopefully over time that will really build and he'll have a really good portfolio by the time he's 18, maybe 25. I'll tell him about it. So we've got that on the side as well. Now, my partner does not like investing. He's not interested in shares. However, years ago, I really wanted to get involved in shares. I didn't really have disposable income, had a bit of bad debt that I needed to clear, credit cards. And then I started when Comset Pocket came out, where you can buy ETFs for a minimum of $50 at a time. And I started to build a portfolio that way. As I was able to save a bit more, I would then invest $500 at a time on each of the investments I have and build another portfolio within Comsec. I've got the Pocket and I've also got Comsec. I do have a couple of shares that way as well. And then of course Super. Super is one that my partner and I really yet to sit down and discuss. However, I think since my partner isn't investing in shares on his own, we may look at doing some salary sacrifice as well, just to boost that for him. And the other, talking about investments, the other things that we still have an investment property. So that is where we're currently sitting in our financial structure of our family. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Project Life Podcast. Do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe or follow on any of the listening platforms where you stream your podcasts.